has 3's, and the word the in the center here. Bookends would make 39. S and N can get married. It's incredible. That is the juiciest part of all of them. Okay. That is incredible. In fact, you can find another love if you want to just, you put these two letters together, you can go H, or sorry, no, I don't think so. That was 15, yeah, right. That's fine. Oh, you can get another half love, yeah, from H-E-N to make 27. That's quite beautiful. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, that was worth it. So look at this. Here's your love number 1. Here's your love number 2. And then here's a half love in this triangle, you know, kind of right in the middle of those two. And then you've got SGS, which adds to 45, right? Yeah, of course it does. Which is a multiple of 9 on the end. But the two loves was glaring in blue there. Oh boy. Man, sometimes I almost think it was easier, like, there's no excuses, but I just think back in the day when the offerings were like physical, and there was like a physical parade, and like, man, there was a lot of work in the offering. We have no excuse, folks, but I'm just thinking back in the days of Israel when they did offerings of animals, and there was such a big kerfuffle regarding the offerings, and there was just so much physical like space and like real animals and like so much work involved in the offering, and there was just so much visibility and smoke, you know, building up from the offering, and fire, like there was just so much visibility and such grand visual and scenery and just eyeball capacity regarding the offering. And you know, nowadays it's like we pass around like the little bag, you know, and people can just like slip in a little piece of paper, you know, we slip in the offering envelope. It's like, you know, back in the day of his, you know, Nehemiah or whatever, you know, they would leave like a big giant treasure chest in the front of the church, and people would like drop in like heavy metal into the offering chest, and like when it got full, it's like you needed 4 men to like truck it off, and it was like big and like gorgeous looking, and it was like visual. It's like now it's like, you know, I'm just saying there's a lot of things that have lightened, I think, they kind of have lightened our view of tithes and offerings. I'm preaching to myself here, folks. Like I say, so we come into this, you know, big church building, and we're all like distracted by all the people everywhere, and you know, this tiny little offering box, you know, place a little piece of paper in, you don't even feel anything. No one even. I think it makes it easier to neglect. I really do. I think it makes it easier for us to neglect this whole ordinance. It's like back then there were like families were showing up with like droves of cattle that were going to be offered on the altar. Like, and if you didn't show up with something, people noticed. It's like, dude, where's your cattle? You know, it just, there's another thing. It's like, it's pretty easy these days to like not put in an offering because it's not visible. You know, it's like if you put a treasure chest right in front of the church, and you stand the pastor beside it, and he, amazingly, Jesus in that parable when he talks about the widow casting in 2 mites, Jesus was watching what was being put into the treasury. Ah, there's a perfect example. How did Jesus know that she put in only 2 mites? Well, of course, it's Jesus. He's supernatural. He knows everything, and maybe the disciples couldn't even see it, but obviously the others could see it because it was somehow visible. Because everyone, the disciples who recorded this story, were watching how the rich people put in much. So I'm just saying, back in the day, it was a lot more visible. Okay, offering was a lot more visible. And so I'm preaching to myself. We are prone to seduction. The way we have it in the West is very prone to just, we'll just let it slip by. No one will notice. Oh, the lights aren't even on in this church. Like, seriously, the church is like dim all the lights. Now it's like a show on center stage. You know, the offering bag comes by in the dark. It's like, and it's all light. No one notices whether there's anything in it or not, because now it's just like paper checks and stuff like that. And it's just like, I'm just saying, it's very, in a fleshly way, it's subtle in how it disappears from the scene. Like, it's just not as visual as it used to be in Jesus' day, when they gave offerings in the temple. And obviously Jesus made it clear through that story of the widow with her 2 mites. Everyone could see everything that everyone was giving. And apparently it was a highly important part of the whole gathering, because everyone was obviously watching or something. You know, and they could see what people were throwing in. It was all very visible. There was like heavy metal, like clinking, like in the pot, you know. And so I'm preaching to myself here. I just see that it's easier, in some ways it could be easier for us to make light of this, or overlook this, or just let this sort of slide, because it's not nearly as visual as it was. Like, offerings, you know, have never been more invisible, so to speak. Which in some ways, like Jesus did say, that's a good thing. When you give, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. But then in another way, it's kind of like, well, people aren't as motivated because they don't see everyone else doing it. The old peer pressure isn't there. Okay. Oh, man. Okay. But this is obviously the most important contribution for this work, finding love in tithes and offerings. Oh my goodness. And then the word gift is 27 plus 15, 42 gifts. Oh my. Tithes, offerings, gifts. And then, yeah, so, and then donations, you know, tithes, offerings, donations. Well, we already found the love and donations. It was right up front, so pretty crazy. Like when you put these words next to each other, donations, tithes, offerings, and you might as well throw checks in there, because checks parallel donations. And the love is just glaring in all of them. Like right at the beginning. So we found love very strongly in donations, tithes, offerings, and checks. It's like right at the front of it. Crazy. 24, that's 57. Amazingly, donations plus checks will then add another 81. So put together donations plus checks, that adds to love plus love plus love plus half a love. That's 189. Tithes plus offerings was 180. That's crazy. Put all four of these words together, that's 369, which is an exceptionally perfect number, because that's a triple of 1, 2, 3. Wow. That's a good end to our mathematical solving here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So literally, donations plus tithes plus offerings plus checks adds perfectly to 1, 2, 3 plus 1, 2, 3 plus 1, 2, 3 to the glory of the Trinity, and grade 3 children can do the math. I could teach this very clearly and very simply to a grade 3 boys Sunday school class. But I think one of the most important things to teach young children about this is that it's exciting. Because when you do this, there's a supernatural God that's going to work miracles in your life to bring you money in ways that you don't have to do things for. That's the promise of God. Jesus said, give, and it will be given to you. like as in free. You gave something free to someone else. God has promised to give something free of charge to you at some point in the future. That's the freedom he has reserved for himself. There's no time restraint on it. Only the promise that it's going to come to you. Okay? I'm preaching to myself and a lot of us in the West. Sometimes I think the reason there's a lot of boredom among Christians in the West is because we're not giving anonymously. And so we've lost the excitement of God working financial miracles in our lives. We're not getting any surprise presents from the Lord. Perhaps because we're not giving anonymously like we could be. Wow. That was huge. Wow. I guess I'm going to take a quick break and come back for more, God willing.